it's a sort of strange place to be in, right? Because 1 year ago, where you thought you wanted to be, you've reached reasonably there, right? You're like it's like if I give you a cricket metaphor, right? You're like a batsman goes out to bat in a test match, and he leaves the test match at sort of 40 not out at the end of the day, right? So when he went to bat, he said, "ठीक है, like if you told me I'd be 40 not out at the end of the day, I'm fine with that."
Yeah.
But now you're batting for the next day, right? You're going into the next day where you're saying, 100 banana hai. Aaj 100 banana hi banana hai, you know? And that's my vibe right now. It's like, okay, the last 1 year, we've done what we set out to do, or we've done reasonably what we set out to do. Now we got to go and hit that century, bat for the long time. Raise your bat, make that big thing, and that's what my vibe is right now.
Why glorify the finishing line when you can cherish your halfway mark, right? Hey everyone, I'm Dr Veda and welcome back to the MidVibe. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like and share if you think you gained something out of it. If you're already an existing subscriber, thank you so much and I really value it. Today I'm in conversation with Arjun Vaidya, who's the founder and CEO of Dr Vedya's, India's first ever only online Ayurveda retail company. He has a legacy of 150 years and still counting. And well, he's also under Forbes 30 under 30 Asia. Let's dive right into this conversation and see what the world of Ayurveda is all about now in the 21st century and how is he capturing that with something that's 150 years old. First and foremost, if anybody is watching this or listening to this, tell them about what Dr. Veda is all about, and also a very brief introduction on Ayurveda for someone who's really new.
Sure. So I think Ayurveda and my family's legacy sort of go hand in hand. Ayurveda 101, what is Ayurveda? We're a 5,000-year-old Indian science of healing using herbs and minerals available in nature. So we're 100% natural. And Ayurveda has been around way before sort of the concept of India even came, right? Because 5,000-year-old science. So my family's been associated with the science for the last 150 years, or at least that's what we can trace. My last name Vaidya means Ayurvedic doctor. My grandfather and great-grandfather were Ayurvedic doctors themselves. They run an Ayurvedic clinic in Mumbai, very famous clinic by my dada's time. So 350 patients a day used to come to the clinic, 12,000 patients per month used to sort of write to him via post. In 2013, my dada passed. And so I inherited this clinic. I inherited 100 plus proprietary Ayurvedic formulations passed down from generation to generation. And I thought there's a sort of opportunity to create an Ayurvedic products brand that takes this 5,000 years of science and blends it with sort of modern thinking to appeal to 21st century consumers. So what of Ayurveda would appeal to you, for example, right? And that's what we set out to do at Dr. Veda. We said, let's take these 5,000 years of science, 150 years of family legacy, and repackage to make it appealing, accessible to Ashna. That's the idea, right? And that's the genesis of Dr. Vedia's. It's new age Ayurveda, or Ayurveda for the 21st century consumer. Over the last 3.5 years, we've actually become sort of a digital first brand. So 95% of our sales, 100% of our efforts come through the power of digital. And this has allowed us actually to engage with more than 1 million customers.
Oh, wow.
16,000 plus PIN codes in India. And that's the power of digital.
Yeah. And Dr. Veda's is also an only online platform, right? You guys don't sell it on like in like retail stores or like offline. You guys don't deal with that.
We sell across other online channels as well. So Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Paytm.
But not in retail. Like not in
very
offline
little
retail.
Very little in offline. You
Why
see
is
some
that?
more next. So I believe in doing one thing right. And getting one thing completely correct before doing a bunch of things. I think there was a huge opportunity in online, and there is still a big opportunity in online. That's something we need to still capture even further. So we'll go deeper in online. We'll engage with more customers. 1 million customers just scratching the surface in India. India is a very large country. And so we need to go much deeper online.
That's actually true. In fact, now with this entire COVID situation, I'm sure, like, how have things been for you in this COVID situation for Dr. Vaidya
Yeah. So I think
specifically?
Ayurveda has got a lot of increase in demand. I was talking to someone this morning as well who's in the health and wellness space, and he said to me, it's very true, a lot of by the way categories have now become essentials, right? So immunity was a by the way category before
Hmm.
March. In Feb, and any time before Feb, people say, yeah, immunity, why do I really need it? I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, now it's become an essential. So I think that's one big change. The other change is that obviously online consumption has increased significantly. My mom did her first Google Pay transaction through the lockdown. My dad did his
Whoa.
first orders on Amazon through the lockdown. And so that really shows a change in consumption and behavior of consumers, right? And so that's going to be a big change in consumption, in the way people look at things going forward. And I think that's going to help in general the e-commerce ecosystem. Ayurveda itself, because of the government support, because of this focus on health and
Right.
wellness, people are Ayurveda has sort of increased in consumption as well.
And like, it's true because right now also with this entire COVID situation, my parents are like every day forcing me and my brother to have like chavanprash and like all that stuff. So it's definitely true that it's like more of an essential now. Like you have to have it.
I think what you said is really interesting as well, right? You said Chavanprash and you frowned a little bit when you said Chavanprash, right? And
Yeah,
that's
I don't
what
like
we
it.
want to. So that's what we saw at Dr. Veda's, right? We saw Chavanprash is great. It's really good for you, but you're not going to have that bitter sticky paste every morning, right? You don't want that.
Right.
So we've created HerboFit, which is the goodness of Chavanprash in a capsule, and
Okay.
Chakash, which is the goodness of Chavanprash in a toffee. So for kids
Oh
who can't
my
have a capsule
god.
but want to enjoy Chavanprash, we'll give you the equivalent goodness of 1 spoon of Chavanprash, but in a toffee form, so it tastes great. And that's the blend of old and new, right? You may
That's
not want to have
interesting.
Chavanprash every morning, but you understand why it's good for you, and so we'll blend the two together.
Definitely. That's really interesting. I think that's the main essence that you as a young entrepreneur brought into this company, right? So coming to that, being a young entrepreneur, especially in a field like Ayurveda, which is more or less associated with old age, and like you can imagine like old uncles and aunties really, like promoting such things. But being a young entrepreneur, I'm sure it's both a blessing and a boon in this field.
Yeah,
Blessing
yeah,
and a boon
yeah.
in the sense, in fact, I wouldn't want to give out any assumptions from what I hold. Tell me from your own experience, how is it a blessing and a boon?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good question actually, because Ayurveda is a category from consumption as well as production. It's categorized by sort of all people with experience. And so, being a 24-year-old when I started this business in Ayurveda and trying to sell a hangover product, people thought I was absolutely crazy, right? Live It Up was one of the first products we launched. It's a Ayurvedic hangover shield. And so people thought, like, what's going on? Like, firstly, why is he so young? Why is he 24 trying to start an
Yeah.
Ayurveda business? Why is he selling a hangover product? I think what's great about being young and sort of being from a different thought process is you try to push the barriers, push the boundaries,
Yeah.
and say why not instead of
Yeah.
why should I do that? But it comes with a share of challenges because you're working in an industry where there's a lot of experience, and I value experience as well. But
Mm.
sometimes younger people are not taken as seriously, and I think until you establish something of repute and something of value, you're just pushed around. And we experienced that for the first 2 years of our company. But I think, hey, once you do something that's sort of uh, good enough, or as you say, at least reach the mid level, right?
Yeah.
Until then, it's not an easy journey. But hey, I think that's all part of the learning experience.
But how did you like confront the people who were like doubting you because of you being young and in a field like Ayurveda? Like, what was your approach during those situations?
My view is always that action speaks louder than words, right? And so, what's the
Yeah,
point of trying to prove yourself to someone by saying, "Hey, I'm this, I'm that, I do this," right? So, we try to sort of make our actions speak, and we've seen
that's
some
true.
people change the way they view us, and that's been good, you know. And obviously with time and patience, things improve. I think patience was another very important characteristic in being a young entrepreneur. It's not easy for a young entrepreneur to be patient and wait and all of those kind of things. And I'm still extremely impatient. Like just before I got on this call, I was having a really sort of stressed out call with my team saying, hey, by the way, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And they were like, it just happened for one day. Just give it another couple of days, but I can't, And so you learn with time that you need to give things time.
Okay, so Dr. Vaidya's is almost 4 years old as an online platform. So if you had to point out maybe 3 to 4 key learnings that you have had, so like right now you said that you're still learning. So like patience is something you're still learning. So like if you could point out 4 things that you feel entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs in their 20s and 30s should definitely focus on when they're trying to like start something new, what would that be from your
Yeah, I
experience?
think it's a really good question. I think I have some things that I've learned, which I'd like to share, right? The first is that strategy is much less important than execution. So don't spend time on just the idea, spend time on getting the idea done. Like there's many Googles before Google, many Facebooks before Facebook, many um, Instagrams before Instagram, many Amazons before Amazon, but Amazon is Amazon, Google is Google, Facebook is Facebook, Instagram is Instagram. And I think for me, that's what I've learned. You can ideate and think and come up with many business plans, but actual numbers speak
Yeah.
louder than anything else. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is you get a lot of advice, right? Especially in our category when you're selling products that everyone can consume, 200, 300, 500 rupee products. Everyone around you can consume it as well. A lot of people will tell you, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. I saw this, do that. Um, but you've got to decide what's the right advice for you and what's not. Hear everything, process everything, don't take everything. Right? Because if you take everything, you end up being a really sort of depressed, confused. One person is saying your packaging is great. One person is saying your packaging is terrible. One person is saying you have too many products. One person is saying you have too few products. One person is saying you should launch offline. One person is saying online is a good strategy.
How do you
Or
struggle? How do you deal with that then?
one
What's
person has
your
said
approach?
one person has said offline was a great strategy. 6 months later, that person said, no, actually, what you're doing in online is a great thing. If you actioned that feedback 6 months ago, you'd be extremely confused, right? No, I think you have to be cognizant of what's good and what's bad. And you have to process it yourself. I think that's the way to do it.
With experience.
Yeah, but you also have to think for yourself, right? Like be cognizant, say, hey, this works, this doesn't work. Maybe this is something I look at 3 months later. Maybe this is something I look at 6 months later. That's call you have to take yourself. I think the third thing, which is the most important for me, is grit and resilience. Like you're going to face failure every single day. I faced failure this morning as well. And I think just being able to work through that is really important. I don't have an answer to this yet because I'm not perfect at this. I still get extremely emotionally affected and take every failure personally. I've gotten much better than I was when I started, but I think it's an important characteristic for anyone. Just don't take it personally and sort of work towards the betterment rather than just bogging yourself down with it. I think the last thing is that team is as important as you, right? You can put in hours and hours and hours of effort, but without people, you can only take a business so far. And so one of our philosophies and one of our most important philosophies is team effort is our power, right? And so we don't say employees at Dr. Vedya's, we say team members. Nobody is an employee of Dr. Vedya's, not even me.
That's nice.
Part of the team, right? So I think these are four sort of points of feedback or things that I've learned along the way. I'm not perfect at it yet. I have a long way to go, but nice things I've learned along the way.
What's your marketing approach to capture the youth? So like one of them, like you said, is you try to get in products that might be appealing to youth, just like the hangover thing and the Chyawanprash tablet. So what's your USP? Why should people prefer Dr. Vedya's over any other online platform?
I think what's really important for us is to make it palatable and understandable, whether it's product formats, product names, how to explain the product use, ingredients, etc. We try to make it palatable for you. And I think that's our USP going forward as well. And from a marketing perspective, we do what our consumers find interesting, right? So when Indian matchmaking came out, we
Yeah.
actually sent our products to all of the Indian matchmaking people, and
Yeah.
Seema auntie took a photo with our products as well. Had a really fun message like, hey, something like, Ayurveda has found the perfect match for you, and we sent her a hamper with our
Oh wow,
products.
that's amazing.
And we put it on our Instagram feed. So I think from a marketing perspective, we try to do what our customers sort of find appealing, and that's how we view our content.
That's very interesting. Okay, so tell me about in the last 4 years, if you could talk about one of the greatest slumps you've experienced. And see, like you said, you face a failure every day, and you're still working on getting out of those failures every day,
Now, the
right?
greatest slump that I faced was when we tried offline in 2017.
Okay.
We sort of were doing decently well with Live It Up and Herb Fit, our two products that we launched. And then I said, okay, it's important to, for a brand, you need a basket of products. So we went and repackaged another 27 products. We had 29 products. And then I said, okay, now this makes sense. I have 29 products. My brand's kind of known for a year. I'm going to go offline to 7,000 stores and see what happens. And we sold a bunch of product. And we hired a sales team of 22 people and a sales manager, and had a reasonably large cost structure associated with it.
Yeah.
3 months, I got 90% of the product returned to me, and I just didn't understand why.
Okay.
And then that was my first big learning to say everything on an Excel sheet doesn't translate into reality. And then we went back and said, why did we fail? What were the mistakes we made? How are we going to mitigate these mistakes? And now, 3 years later, we'll start offline. After
Yeah.
learning all those things, after establishing our use case, after building our brand on a platform we can build. So I think that's the way we looked at failure. And I think it's a good situation because we sort of corrected our course pretty quickly, right? And I think you can get into the rut and do it for a year saying next month, next month, next month. But we said, no, we failed. This is why we failed. This is why we were wrong. And we're going to change it.
That's nice. Like you didn't get sucked up into that hole. You came out of it, faced it, and then what can we do next about it? Do it and come out. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's nice. Was this something that you always wanted to do? Like get into your
Yeah.
dad's business, family business?
Yeah, so my dad's business actually is a completely different business, right? A lot of people think that Ayurveda is our family legacy and we've only done Ayurveda. So my dad is actually in the jewelry and watch space, in the luxury jewelry and watch. He never took on the Ayurveda legacy. So actually a lot of people ask me why I didn't join my dad's business. The reality is that I grew up with Ayurveda. I was cured of juvenile bronchitis after 12 years of my dada's treatment. I have a personal association to the science. I was very close to my grandfather, and I'm very proud to be Indian. Right, I wear this every single day.
Oh,
Our
wow.
T-shirts proudly Indian. Our product says proudly Indian on it, and so I felt that there's something that needs to be done with the science of Ayurveda. And I made a promise to my grandfather that I would do something with it. And after he passed, I just
so
thought that
nice.
I have to do something with the legacy.
Yeah.
I'm young enough to take a risk right now. And that's why I knew I would do something with it at some point in my life. I didn't know I would be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, but I knew I would do something with it for sure.
So like you always had that kira at the back of your head that I want to do this, but just didn't know at that time. So you figured along the way.
I didn't know what I would do, but I knew I would do something with our family's Ayurveda legacy for sure.
And what was that triggering point, that catalyst for you to start it then?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So I had done 2.5 years in private equity.
Okay.
I graduated from college. I was fortunate at 21 to get a private equity job. Very few people start straight in private equity. I got lucky. I got an internship, which I converted to a job.
Okay, wow.
And 2.5 years into that, I loved what I was doing, but I loved the fact that I got to interact with entrepreneurs. So I worked at a fund called L Capital Asia. It's now called L Carrington. So it's a consumer sector focused private equity fund. And I met 150 entrepreneurs in the consumer space over almost 3 years. So from health and wellness, beauty, retail, food and beverage, alcohol,
Okay.
across spaces, right? Um, FMCG, across consumer spaces. And I realized after this that meeting these 150 entrepreneurs, what stimulated me about that was the entrepreneurs and their brands and their journey. So I wanted to do something more early stage or more involved in entrepreneurship. And that's where I was 2.5 years into my private equity journey. And I think I was thinking about all of this, but the last thing you want to do is go back to your family legacy, right? So I was like, no, Ayurveda is there, but I want to do something new. And I was at my
Okay.
dad's birthday, uh, and I was giving a speech there. His office team had organized something. This is after my dada had passed. My dada passed, and we wanted to shut down the clinic because there was no doctor. But his patients didn't let it. They said, no, we need this medicine, so keep it going. So we kept the clinic on as a dispensary. Patients with his prescription came and picked up medicine. That's how we kept it running. And my dada's team was invited to this event at my dad's office as well.
Okay.
After I gave the speech, a few people came up to me and said, "Hey, you spoke really well, all of that." And I talked about my dad and his influence on my life and stuff. And my dada's nurse of 17 years came and told me, she was like, "You're talking about your father and his legacy, but are you going to let your dada's legacy die?" And that's when the sort
Wow.
of switch clicked, and I said, "No, no, no. I have to
Yeah.
do it. Now's the time. Let's get it done. It's going to happen."
Shit. Crazy. So you were like 24 when you started it.
Yeah, this conversation happened when I was sort of 23 and a half, I think. By the time I started, I was 24.
Wow. That's insane. Like one trigger of that nurse saying it out to
Well,
you.
well, it's not just one trigger, right? So some people say it's one trigger. No, there was a lot of thought
Definitely,
that
definitely.
was
But like,
happening, but the trigger just said now.
yeah, exactly. Nice. So like you're 28 now, and if somebody asks you right now at this age, being in this 28 close to 30 age group, if they want to start something new, what from your experience would you tell them ki nahi, it's not too late, start right now?
Oh, it's never too late, to be honest, in my
That's
opinion,
true,
right?
but
There are
everybody
entrepreneurs who
says
start.
that. How do you
There are
convince
entrepreneurs
them?
who started at 35, 40, and I think a lot of people have been successful, right? My view is the only one thing I would say is you can't be a part-time entrepreneur. Part-time is impossible, right? So if you have a job and you're like, I'm going to do my job, this is my side gig. When this starts doing well, I will leave my job. No, sorry,
Give it your
you can't be a
100%.
part-time. You got to be in or you got to be out. Like you can't be slightly pregnant. And I think that's one big piece of advice. The other thing is, look, a lot of people, you read news articles, it look like a beautiful, rosy, exciting journey. I'm
Yeah.
seeing 12 WhatsApp messages pop up on my screen as we're having this conversation that have alarmed me that I need to respond to after we have this conversation. So it's not like a rosy, beautiful journey.
Yeah.
It's extremely rewarding, but it's an emotional roller coaster, and you have to be ready for that as well. Um, I think these are 2 points that I've seen that a lot of people didn't tell me before I started. You got to
Good
convince
answer.
yourself. You can't have anyone convince you. You got to convince yourself.
That's true. That's definitely there without a doubt. Yeah. Okay. What is your current midvibe? Is what my last question is always to my guests. Like, what's your current midvibe? What's your current aura that you're at this point of your journey?
Yeah, I think we're exactly in the middle, right? I think we're a medium-sized startup. We're not small as we were even 2 years ago, right? Where we were in one office, you could yell and everyone could hear what the conversation was. We've
Yeah.
grown from there. I think there are a lot of challenges being a sort of medium-sized. You're not small, but you're not big yet, and you need to push to get big, and you get stuck in the middle, right? And so I think uh, most startup entrepreneurs will tell you they're in the middle. I truly believe we're in the middle, but most startup entrepreneurs will tell you there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
And for us, there's still a long, long way to go, right? We've still only scratched the surface. We've not done our offline launch. We've not launched in export markets. So we have a long, long way to go. But I think it's an exciting time to be in Ayurveda and to be an online entrepreneur right now.
Right now, especially.
Absolutely.
But what's your current vibe? Like, what's your current energy in your aura at this point of your journey?
So I think it's a sort of strange place to be in, right? Because 1 year ago, where you thought you wanted to be, you've reached reasonably there, right? You're like it's like if I give you a cricket metaphor, right? You're like a batsman goes out to bat in a test match, and he leaves the test match at sort of 40 not out at the end of the day, right? So when he went to bat, he said, "Theek hai, like if you told me I'd be 40 not out at the end of the day, I'm fine with that."
Yeah.
But now you're batting for the next day, right? You're going into the next day where you're saying, 100 banana hai. Aaj 100 banana hi banana hai, and that's my vibe right now. It's like, okay, the last 1 year, we've done what we set out to do, or we've done reasonably what we set out to do. But now we got to go and hit that century and bat for the long time. Raise your bat, make that big thing, and that's what my vibe is right now.
That's such an energetic vibe right now, then, because you're always striving to go further up, the next rung. That's really empowering. I think
2 steps forward, 2 steps backward, 1 step forward, 1 step backward, 2 steps forward. You're constantly sort of in that place.
Lodging your way out, paving your way out. Really nice. Any last thoughts that you have? Anything that you would definitely want to be out there if someone's listening to this or watching this? Anything?
Yeah, so I think this time has been difficult for a lot of us over the last 4 or 5 months. I think what's helped us get through it is positivity, right? And so my message to everyone out there is opportunity in adversity. It looks very difficult, but stay safe, stay healthy, stay immunized, but most important, stay positive. Because we're all in this together and we'll get out of it soon.
Vocal for locals. Go buy from Dr. Vedya's.
And all Indian brands, not just Dr. Veda's.
Yeah, definitely. With that, I think let's stay positive, and thank you so much, Arjun, for this conversation. It was a brief conversation, but I'm sure you gave such beautiful short pointers, key takeaways people could just catch away from this conversation. So thank you so much for this.
Thanks for your time, Ashna. I really enjoyed it.
I hope you gathered some key takeaways from this conversation. If you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give us a review. Keep going, embrace your vibe. Until next time. Thank you. Take care.